Study with Artemis, Inc. podcast. This information was produced with the assistance of AI-generated content. Key figures in early alchemy, sacred texts and mystical connections. This document examines the pivotal figures in early alchemy, specifically those whose contributions involve the creation or influence of sacred texts. Alchemy, often misconstrued as solely the pursuit of material transmutation, was fundamentally a profound philosophical and spiritual discipline, deeply interwoven with religious and sacred traditions. This analysis explores individuals whose writings integrated scientific inquiry, mystical revelation, and divine scripture. The investigation commences in the Hellenistic period, a nexus of diverse cultures and intellectual currents, particularly in Alexandria, Egypt. This era saw the emergence of a figure, largely legendary yet profoundly influential in alchemical thought, Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus, or Hermes the Thrice Great, is traditionally regarded as the author of the Hermetic Corpus, a collection of sacred texts that became foundational to Western esotericism, including Alchemy 1, 2. Although not a singular historical individual, the texts ascribed to him, such as the Emerald Tablet and the Poimandres, were venerated as divine revelations 1, 2, 3. The Emerald Tablet, though concise, is arguably the most renowned alchemical text. Its enigmatic verses, including, "That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing," established the alchemical principle of correspondence. This principle posits that the microcosm, humanity, reflects the macrocosm, the universe, and that spiritual transformation parallels material transmutation 1, 3. Alchemists engaged with these texts not merely as scientific treatises but as divinely inspired keys to profound natural secrets. The Poimandres, another Hermetic text, addresses themes of creation, the nature of the divine, and the soul's progression, thereby reinforcing the spiritual and cosmological dimensions of Hermetic alchemy 2, 4. Advancing to the 3rd and 4th centuries CE, we encounter Zosimos of Panopolis, frequently considered the earliest alchemist whose writings have survived in substantial fragments. 5. Zosimos was a Greco-Egyptian alchemist and Gnostic mystic. 5, 6. His works, often structured as dialogues between himself and figures such as his sister Theosebia, employ extensive allegorical and symbolic language, drawing heavily on Gnostic and Hermetic traditions. 6, 7. Zosimos interpreted chemical processes as metaphors for spiritual purification and ascent. 7, 8. For instance, the blackening, nigredo, of a substance in the alchemical process was conceptualized as analogous to the soul's descent into obscurity and suffering, preceding its eventual whitening, albedo, and reddening, rubedo, stages representing spiritual enlightenment and divine union. 7. His texts incorporate references to sacred visions, dreams, and initiations, emphasizing the deeply religious and ritualistic aspects of his alchemical practice. 7, 8. He posited that authentic alchemy transcended the mere transmutation of base metals into gold, aiming instead for the transmutation of the alchemist's own soul into a refined, pure state. Consequently, his writings functioned as both practical guides and sacred scriptures for his adherents. 5. The alchemical tradition subsequently evolved, particularly with the advent of Islam. Islamic scholars meticulously preserved, translated, and expanded upon the knowledge inherited from ancient Greece and Egypt. A highly influential figure in Islamic alchemy, whose work possessed significant spiritual dimensions, was Jabir ibn Ayan, known in the Latin West as Jibir 9, 10. Jibir, active around the 8th or 9th century CE, is attributed with an extensive corpus of alchemical and scientific writings, although many scholars propose that Jabir represents a collective pseudonym for a school of alchemists. 9, 10. Irrespective of authorship, the Jabirian corpus is notable for its systematic experimental methodology and its integration of alchemical theory with Islamic religious and philosophical concepts. 9, 10. The Jabirian alchemists frequently correlated the balance of elements and qualities in substances with the concept of mizan or balance, a foundational principle in Islamic cosmology and ethics. 10. They believed that achieving perfect balance in a substance through alchemical processes mirrored the divine order of creation. Their texts often reference the Book of Balance and other works that underscore the spiritual and ethical implications of their endeavors. 10. The pursuit of the elixir or philosopher's stone was not solely for material perfection, but also for attaining spiritual perfection and proximity to the divine. The alchemical laboratory thus became a site of spiritual devotion, and the guiding texts were perceived as sacred pathways to comprehending divine wisdom. 10. Another notable figure from the Islamic Golden Age, though perhaps less directly involved in authoring sacred texts in the conventional sense, was Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Zakaria al-Razi, known as Rhazes in the West. Active in the 9th and 10th centuries, Rhazes was a polymath, a physician, philosopher, and alchemist. 11, 12. While his methodology was more empirically grounded than that of some predecessors, his alchemical work remained situated within a broader philosophical and theological framework. 11, 12. Rhazes's contributions primarily involved practical aspects, including the classification of substances and the description of laboratory apparatus and procedures. 12. Nevertheless, his philosophical writings often addressed the nature of matter, the soul, and creation, indicating that even for a more empirically oriented alchemist, the spiritual underpinnings of the craft persisted. 11. The pursuit of knowledge, including alchemical knowledge, was frequently regarded in Islamic thought as a form of worship, a means to better understand divine creation. 11. As alchemy transitioned into the European Middle Ages and Renaissance, the Hermetic texts, particularly the Emerald Tablet, continued to be held in high esteem as sacred. Figures such as Albertus Magnus, 13th century, and Roger Bacon, 13th century, while deeply rooted in scholasticism and Christian theology, also engaged with alchemical concepts. 13, 14. They endeavored to reconcile alchemical principles with Christian doctrine, viewing the transformation of matter as a reflection of divine creation and the redemption of the soul. 13, 14. Their writings, while not considered sacred texts themselves, frequently referenced and interpreted older Hermetic and alchemical works through a theological perspective. 13. In summary, the early history of alchemy is inextricably linked to the history of sacred texts and mystical traditions. From the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, whose divine revelations formed the bedrock of Hermetic philosophy, to Zosimos of Panopolis, who conceptualized alchemical processes as spiritual journeys, and the Islamic alchemists like Jabir ibn Ayan, who integrated the pursuit of the elixir with Islamic cosmology and ethics. These individuals perceived alchemy not merely as a science but as a sacred art. Their writings, whether directly revered as scripture or profoundly influenced by it, guided practitioners in a quest for both material and spiritual perfection, seeking to comprehend the divine order manifested in the transformation of the world. Copyright 2025. References. 1. The Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. Cabinet. University of Oxford. 2. Hermeticism. Theosophy World. 3. Emerald Tablet. Wikipedia. 4. Hermeticism. Wikipedia. 5. Zosimos of Panopolis, The Philosopher's Stone. Reddit. 6. The Egyptian Origins of Alchemy, Zosimos of Panopolis. YouTube. 7. Zosimos of Panopolis. Wikipedia. 8. Zosimos of Panopolis, The Alchemical Philosopher and His Legacy. Get Therapy Birmingham. 9. Jabir ibn Hayyan. PMC. 10. The Reconstruction Concept of Musa Jabir ibn Hayyan Thought, Study on Chemistry for Establishing Civilization in Islamic Integration of Science. E-Journal UIN Succa. 11. Al-Razi, Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Zakaria, d. 925. Phil Archive. 12. Abu Bakr Muhammad ibn Zakaria al-Razi, Rhazes philosopher, physician and alchemist. PMC. 13. Technology and Alchemical Debate in the Late Middle Ages. Compiler Press. 14. Miskatonic University Books of Ancients, Afrasiab, Yankee Classic. Yankee Classic.